Hello to all those listening. Welcome to our RIS Coffee Catch-up Student Series. My name is Pranal Shah, a student at the University of Reading, working alongside the Employer Engagement Team, where the Reading Internship Scheme plays a big role. I'm joined today by Annabelle, a biomedical student who completed the Reading Internship Scheme last year. Hi, Annabelle.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, very well.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, my name's Annabelle. I'm doing biomed, as Pranil said. I've just started my second year at Reading, and in my first year, I did the Reading internship.
That's great. I mean, for a first year, finding the Reading Internship Scheme, how did you come across it?
So, I was just sort of messing around, really, looking on. I think as a first year, just trying to get to grips with starting university, and I was just sort of looking, online to see, get used to all the websites and stuff like that. And then, I came across campus jobs, and then I think just messing around on different websites. I mean, I can't even remember which one I use now, but just kind of looking around, I sort of stumbled across, I found out about the Red Award, which is, I think, a separate thing. I found out about the internship award just from kind of looking around on the websites, really, just being quite keen to sort of see what, was available for students. And then, just applied from there, really.
That's amazing. I mean, for your first year, going out there and trying to get as much opportunity as you could. Do you have any tips for students who, could stumble across these internships or these opportunities like you did?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing I'd say is just kind of, when you start university, just spend, the first week or so. I mean, obviously people want to party and with Freshers Week and everything, but I guess if you just spend like a few hours getting to, exploring just to see what is on offer at the university, because there's so much. I mean, wherever you go, there'll be so many things that you can do. There's societies, clubs, etc. But just like, the internet is where everything is sourced now. So if you just spend a bit of time getting used to the, exploring on the websites and seeing what stuff you can do. I guess it may seem a little bit early. I personally took a gap year, so I was kind of maybe a little bit more mature than the average 18-year-old is when they start uni. But I think just taking the time to sort of explore what's on the websites, really, and just talk around. I mean, a lot of stuff gets by word of mouth because obviously it's a lot of people living in a relatively small space with uni students. So just kind of be open to everything and anything and just sort of take the opportunities that come.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So when you came across this vacancy, what made you apply for the position that you did apply for?
So there are a few things to consider, really. So first of all, is whether I'd actually be able to get to it, because although we've been in a global pandemic and in and out of lockdown for the past year, I actually started it in January. So I, was having to commute at that time. So I first of all just wanted to check that I'd be able to get to it from where I was living at the time. So that was kind of one of the main factors, because I did it alongside my first year, so it wasn't in like a holiday period.
Right.
And then I checked, I kind of looking to see what sort of hours they'd be able to do, because I don't know for people that did it over the holidays, but I kind of needed it to fit around my lectures, because doing a science degree, you have lots of practical hours, so it's quite contact hour heavy. So I had to check that there was sort of flexibility there. I just came across the company that I did it for. And I just sort of sent off the application. I do think it was the only one I applied to. I can't remember how many there were at the time, but I was just quite keen on it, really. I thought it would be interesting because I actually want to go into sort of the medical side of things. But I kind of wanted to get an experience in something different, sort of like an office-based job, just to see what it was like, really, out of curiosity. Because I think, university is probably the best time, really, to experiment with different types of jobs. So, yeah.
That's great. You mentioned you started in January. How was that balance between doing the part-time role and fitting in your studies? Did you have to be super organized? Do you have any tips?
Sure. So I think when I first applied, I had no idea if I'd get it or not. I didn't know how competitive it would be or anything like that. So I just sort of applied, I think probably early December time, and didn't really think too much about it. There's so much stuff that goes on at university. You don't really, there's just so much that goes on. I didn't really think about it for a while. And then I got the news that they wanted to interview me in sort of early January, I think. So I turned up, had my interview, and then they gave me the job. And yeah, I think when I got it, in part of the interview, it was fairly informal. So I just sort of spoke to them about, how I'd manage my time, and we negotiated the hours that I do for them, which I think was 15 hours a week,
Right.
maybe 20. I can't actually remember. I think it was 15 to sort of, so I'd be able to manage it with my studies. And then I just spoke to them about, how I'd actually be able to fit it in. I was very transparent with them. I just showed them my timetable, and they were really understanding. So I think I had a lot of practical sort of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I did a lot of work for them on like Monday and Friday, and then I think a half day on Wednesday. So, I was very fortunate. My employers were very understanding, and the sort of work I was doing was quite flexible. So, I think most people now have had to adapt to flexible working because of everything being remote. So, I'm not sure if that will be a problem for people moving forward with trying to do an internship. But yeah, I think I just, yeah.
Yeah. When you went in for your interview, it was obviously office based, but before that, did you speak to a career consultant? And if you did, how did they help you?
I actually don't think I did. I think the email that I got from them made it sound like it was quite an informal interview. So, I just made sure that I'd looked at everything on my CV, and I was able to talk about everything that was going on. To be honest, I didn't really put much pressure on myself because, it was first year. I was just sort of trying my luck with stuff, really, which seems to be a bit of a habit of mine. But yeah, I think it would be a good idea actually for people to do that. I think because it was so soon that I started uni, I think I was aware that there was a career service, but I didn't really take the initiative to go and meet them. Having said that, I have met careers, people in the careers department for advice on other stuff. And when I'm actually going to be applying to like graduate medicine, so when I do that, I'll probably meet them with them to do that. But yeah, I think I just sort of, I made sure I understood my CV, had stuff to talk about regarding that, and yeah, just didn't put too much pressure on myself because I think at the end of the day, interviewers just want to know that you're suitable for them. They obviously liked you enough to invite you to an interview, so I think just have confidence in your ability, and just know your stuff basically.
Yeah. You slightly mentioned this earlier, but what else did you like about the company that you applied to?
Sure. So yeah, as I said, they were very flexible. So that was kind of, I think for a lot of uni students, that is very important because, social life is a very important and really big thing at uni. Um, there's the studying side of things. Everyone likes to study in different ways at different times, etc. And then obviously you have the commitments and with your course, and then obviously clubs and stuff as well. I play quite a lot of sports, and so for me it was really important that I was able to still do that alongside my internship. So I think it's just a case of, yeah, just kind of balancing my time really. And yeah, I think they were just really, really understanding, in terms of like, I think that is the main issue that students have when they do internships, if it's alongside their degree. So yeah, I think that was probably what they were really good at.
It seems like you're involved in a lot of things, with sports and societies, and then you have the internship and your studies. Do you have any tips for students on how to balance their time when, you know, these opportunities come forward?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's one thing I would say, it's an ongoing process. So, there are days, especially at the moment, I think with lockdown, it gets quite monotonous doing sort of the same sort of things every day. And, students at the moment are essentially teaching themselves their own degree. So it's a challenging time. I think just take it day by day. When I wake up, when I used to be in different places at once, I sort of group activities and tasks to do depending on where I was during the day. But I think now it's just a case of sort of waking up, write down everything that you got to do, and then do the thing that you want to do least the first, because then it's done. And I've learned that motivation depletes quite a lot during the day. So I think if you just start off doing the stuff that you don't like doing the most, then it gets a bit easier towards the end of the day.
Yeah.
And take time out too. People need to relax sometimes. I mean, yesterday I had a big assessment due in on Monday, and on Tuesday I just spent the whole day watching like films and stuff because I just needed to have a break. I was working on it for so long. So I think it's just, it's rest is also productive. I think that's something which needs to be drummed into uni students. You can't always, I mean, maybe not, it depends on the person really, but it's a piece of advice that I've had to take. So yeah.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. You mentioned your interview was pretty informal, so you were successful, and then once you're successful, did you receive any feedback from your interviewer on what you did well, what you could improve on?
Gosh, well, it was over a year ago when I did it now, so let me just have a think. Um, I think it moved pretty quickly. I mean, I think I had the interview around sort of the 9th, 10th of January, and then I started on like the 20th or something. So it was only really about 10 days between me having my interview and starting. Um, I'm not sure if they actually did give me any feedback because they offered me the job. But I think if they hadn't given me the job, I would have asked why if they hadn't given me any feedback. But I mean, they've given me references and stuff since I've left. So that, I think sometimes if they, if employers don't necessarily take the initiative to give you feedback if you're successful or unsuccessful, then I think it's just a case of asking them a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned you got references, which I think is a really good thing, especially when you look forward to the career path you're sort of following. Do you have any tips for students going into these interviews, and then once they're finished, what sort of what's the way forward, or how to look for the way forward?
Sure. Well, I think it's sort of with regards to like interview tips. I mean, it's sort of, reiterating a bit of what I said before. I
Yeah.
think it's all about sort of just, the interviewer wants to just test your suitability. They're not looking to catch you out. They genuinely just want to see if they think you'd be a good fit. So I think just maybe, if it makes sense, just do a little bit of research on the company, just, see what they're all about. And then, like I said, just have confidence in your ability, really. They liked you enough to offer you an interview, so they clearly like something about you. So I think just go over your CV a few times, maybe chat to a friend or someone that's had interviews before, or a careers person, just to give you a bit more confidence if you feel like you need it. But yeah, I think just go in with an open mind. Don't have like any expectations for the interview. Just let it sort of flow and go where it goes. And if it just feels like it's going wrong, then maybe just take a deep breath. And you never know. All interviewers are looking for different stuff all the time, and often when you think something's gone badly, it's actually gone quite well. So with the interview I had in person with the people that employed me, it was quite informal. So it wasn't really like they were trying to catch me out. They more just wanted to know about the experience I'd had. But I think for more kind of taxing interviews that people go into for, graduate roles and things like that, I think, just kind of drink some water, take a few deep breaths, and just sort of let it take it where it takes you. And then I think with regards to like references and stuff, I think, a lot of employers, if you've built up a good relationship over the time of your work, which hopefully you would have done, that, I'm sure they'd be very willing to give you references as long as you ask for them. I'd also mention LinkedIn because that is something which I think is a very powerful tool, which I only really learned about this year. So I'm actually in the process of trying to get my employers from last year to sort of recommend me on LinkedIn. But actually I think it's the careers service, do a really good sort of introduction to using LinkedIn, which I'd really recommend because I didn't really know much about it at all. But after attending one of those, I've got like a LinkedIn profile, and I've been in contact with different companies and things like that purely because they, I made my LinkedIn account and they came across my profile. So I think people should even see LinkedIn as like a source of employability. It's not just like advertising yourself. So I think, I'd put a lot of focus on LinkedIn as well, because that everything's turning very digital and social media-y. So I'd really recommend people make use of that.
Sure.
It's just like another app. We have Instagram, we have Snapchat, and then LinkedIn's just that for employability, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. So when you did your internship, was it the same sort of things you did that you read on your job description?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were a very transparent company, as I keep saying. So I mean, I think what they advertised was pretty much, what it was very much what it said it was on the tin. So it was something very different. I mean, I do a science degree, so it's lots of practicals and studying mechanisms of chemical interactions and things like that. And the internship I did was kind of office based, a lot on Microsoft Excel. You know, Working for different companies. So it was very different. But yeah, I mean, they were very helpful, and they had people guiding me through what I was supposed to do. I learned a bit about different formulas and stuff in Excel. So it was totally different to anything I'd expected. But, it's an internship, so it's supposed to be something a bit different and new. Yeah.
Sure. What did you learn from the internship?
Loads of things. I mean, to kind of reiterate what I just said, I mean, I learned about different stuff to do with Excel. I mean, I actually was lucky enough to have, even when the lockdown was happening, because I kind of found it was quite interesting, really. I started off doing a normal internship, kind of late January in person, and then sort of towards the end of March, when the whole lockdown thing happened, I ended up doing the rest of it online. So I sort of had the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
My company were very good at being efficient in giving me like a laptop and arranging meetings and stuff. So it was still really enjoyable. But yeah, I mean, I had the benefit of having sort of weekly Excel lessons because they had some IT whiz that worked for them. So he would sort of teach me stuff to do with Excel every week, which is really useful. So Excel skills. I learned a lot about actually just being what's the word, persistent. I mean, you have to, it was a lot more independent working at home, because if I had a problem with IT and things like that, then I'd have to sort of try and work it out myself, because obviously people have meetings and stuff, so you can't just sort of call everyone whenever. Whereas in the office, I could see if the IT guy was free, so I could just go up to him and get some help. So you have to be. I was a lot more independent, I think, which was something very interesting. I think just kind of work etiquette. It sounds really basic and boring, but I think just kind of getting used to working in a team of people in a space. Because I think in the past, I've when you're at uni or whatever, you're sort of just, you can choose who you socialize with, whereas at work you're sort of, I don't mean that to sound negative, but you're put with people that you might not necessarily associate with like on a daily basis normally. So it's definitely that's something which I developed. And then just professionalism in general. Yeah, I think they're probably the main things I picked up.
It sounds great. I mean, having that work etiquette or in a professional setting, I think is really important for anyone. Do you have any tips for success securing or even after doing the Reading Internship Scheme?
Sure. I mean, I think the main thing which I would say is, just kind of, it sounds a bit, I don't know, negative, but I think you just have to sort of accept that rejection is a part of success. I think you have to fail a lot before you can succeed in anything. I mean, there are quite a few role models I have that I look up to, and most of them have failed more times than you would have thought. So I think it's just accepting that, sometimes you might think it's the end of the world if you get rejected or you don't get what you want. But I think eventually everything does work out for the best. And, I mean, I heard, I'm going to botch this, but Richard Branson has a really good quote where it's something like, opportunities are like buses, if you miss one, there's always another one coming. So, yeah, I mean, just don't really get too emotionally attached to, things that you want. I mean, it's good to have goals and stuff, but I think, have have a certain goal that you want, but be flexible in its approach, because it's, life is not a straight line. There's all sorts of twists and turns. So I just think be flexible and don't take rejection personally.
Yeah. Just to wrap up, I know you've sort of mentioned this earlier, but what has been your biggest takeaway from the whole scheme?
Well, that's a really good question. My biggest takeaway. Gosh, that I don't know. I think probably to just go with the flow. I mean, it sounds like a really basic thing to say, but the year was very changeable. I started off in an office, and I was working from home, and then I was fortunate enough, actually, over the summer where we couldn't do anything in lockdown, I was offered like a job extension. So I worked from doing my internship to actually working for them full time for a couple of months, I think, until I went back to uni. So I think just kind of don't try and expect anything from the future. I mean, like I said before, I mean, it's great to have goals and aspirations, but I think sometimes we fall into the trap of having a fixed approach to those things, or you think there's only one way of getting there. The year that last year was definitely not what I expected, and I don't think was for anyone. But I think, you will get to where you want to go, whether it's with the internship or just kind of anything in life. So I think just be flexible, really. And yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for, your whole experience, really. I think for all our listeners out there, it's going to really open up a lot of opportunities just from seeing how you've taken your opportunities and gone with it. So thank you.
Sure, no worries.